Okay, it's a few minutes after 7 o'clock. Started. We will call the Johnston City Council. Call, please.
Councilmember Cope,
Here.
Evans,
Here.
Martin,
Here.
Ready,
Here.
Burkhart.
Welcome everyone that is in the audience with us this evening. Are participating audience first and let them if you're here for an item that is not on the agenda, we will backwards, but you can address the council under public communications. And if you're here in person, you'll be called on first. We'll go to. Next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Next item on the agenda is the agenda approval. Changes to the agenda?
Changes this evening. So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Ready,
Yep.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda, motion passed. Next item on the agenda is public communications. Here with us. Public hearing this evening is to conduct approximately 38 points located at the southwest corner of Northwest. First reading of ordinance number 1057. 36.95. Today is the 7th.
I was gonna say, we lost a lot of time there. Could have wrote a long intro. Good evening. Mozart Properties LLC has submitted a request to amend the comprehensive plan and rezone this property at the southwest corner of 70th and 86th Street. The property is currently used as an agricultural farm field and is marketed for sale for development. It includes a drainage way on both the north and south boundaries, some significant tree coverage, and an existing pond with associated dam embankment. If we jump over to the comprehensive plan, Cindy, Thrive 2040 plan excerpt, I'm going to first touch on our comprehensive plan. The property is currently shown as a mixture of, and we're looking at that bottom portion there. It is included as part of one of our focus areas in the Thrive 2040 plan, with this parcel being shown as a mixture of parks and open space, commercial, and medium density residential. The commercial for this, on this particular property had been shown on the northwestern quadrant of the parcel, adjoining what is a commercial lot just north of Rio of Johnston, and with medium density residential making up the vast majority of the remaining ag field, with the drainage ways largely retained as parks and open space. This is an area of the community. You talk parks and open space, we actually are talking parkland needs in this Also, I'll point out we do also call out a need for a trail along the south boundary of the site, which I will touch on here a little bit later. So we do have a request to amend the comprehensive plan for this particular property. And Cindy, if you wouldn't mind opening up. Here is to align the uses with where they would like to actually develop on the parcel. Really shrinking down that commercial node and relocating that to an area north of the existing drainage way along 70th Avenue. Everything between the two drainage ways as medium density residential intended to be developed as by attached units. The applicant has looked at to determine if there is sufficient area for development potential. And they did some concepting, and while the concepts themselves are probably different than what we'll actually see, it does appear that there's about a 5,000 to 6,000 square foot commercial structure and associated improvements in that area, which would be outside of the required stream buffers and have minimal impact on the existing vegetation in the area. It certainly would be tight, but it does have potential there.
So Clayton, you're talking about this little red,
Yeah, where the cursor is right there.
but again, of the 5
Approximately,
square foot building,
yes. Plus associated site improvements, parking.
parking right.
Actual site design is likely to vary from that, but does appear to have some potential, but on a limited scale. One of the goals of this focus area was to right-size the commercial node in this area. Just north of the 70th here is property that is largely zoned professional commerce and neighborhood commercial currently. And we do show that being scaled back as well. So combining that with the southern piece, we would have what would be that red area retained as commercial in this.
Are we just looking at the southwest corner or the northwest corner too?
The amendment is strictly on the southwest corner.
Okay.
The northwest corner is shown for reference as part of the focus area. There is no proposed changes to the future.
Okay, so that map I can disregard. So the southwest portion of it, red is the commercial and the green is the park thing.
Parks and open space. And the orange is medium density. And then with some conceptual roads in there, kind of a line. And I did allude to, they have provided a concept drawing, which Cindy, I don't know if you'd like to open that up, please. So this is the conceptual drawing of how the property could develop. I would note that we are not approving any specific site design this evening, only comprehensive plan amendment and zoning change. This would have to come back as part of a preliminary plat and site, potentially a site plan for review, but they provide this as to give an indication of what you might see develop here based on what you're looking to do. Largely single family by attached units, and then that commercial section up top. The area that they have designated Outlot Y does have potential to serve as a neighborhood park for this area of our community. Moving on to zone.
Before
Yeah,
we
go-
move
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Park areas look like.
I would say Outlot Z, you can call that green space. That's really not type opportunity park. Until we get all the dimensions in that, how it would be best developed, but there's potential there.
Or is it big enough to put some,
Yeah, it would be more or less a pocket type park. It's not going to be a destination park, so you're not gonna drive over there. You're not going to do any of that. It would just meet some of the requirements of the neighborhood that's going in. Allow kids to be able to access.
And generally, what staff has advised the applicant is that Outlot Y has potential for parkland dedication. Outlot Z likely would be retained by maybe a homeowners association for stormwater management. There is the pond there. If it could be developed as a park amenity, such as a fishing pond, there may be interest from the city, but plus if we can really make it a community amenity, probably retained. So the property is currently zoned C2 community retail commercial along the northern portions of the site, both with and without restrictions. The restrictions are on the northwestern quadrant of the site. The southern portion of the site is currently zoned PC Professional Commerce Park, which is generally our office zoning district. And what the applicant is requesting is R2, 1 and 2 family residential. That would allow for development of either single-family detached residences with 60-foot wide lots, or single-family bi-attached units, 100-foot wide, so 50-foot per unit. And assuming council approves the comprehensive plan amendment, the zoning district as proposed would be in compliance with the comprehensive. You need to amend the comprehensive plan to make that in compliance there, so. Looking at adjacent land uses, I briefly touched on to the north is property zone neighborhood commercial. We do identify areas to the north being developed actually as residential type uses with transitioning densities. Have some existing single family detached both to the northwest as well as to the south. And then immediately to the west is Brio of Johnston, which is a continuum of care, senior-oriented project, skilled nursing, independent living, assisted living. They do have a commercial lot there just to the northwest of the site. There will be buffering required as part of any development of the site. I won't go into too much detail on the specifics there, but it would be required, including stream buffers. So I would anticipate minimal impact to the streams, but I would. Access to the site would be from both Northwest 70th Avenue and Northwest 86th Street. With the reconstruction of Northwest 70th Avenue, we did accommodate for a full access. It would require a stream crossing, but we have previously anticipated that when we redid roadway as well as with 86th Street. Hopping over to sidewalk and trails, we do have trail along Northwest 70th Avenue. There currently is nothing along Northwest 86th Street, so that would have to get constructed with development. We do have an existing development agreement in place regarding trail dedication and construction along the southern boundary, what would be the north side of that southern drainage way. That dates back to 2006 when the neighborhood to the south was developed. Our comprehensive plan at the time called for a trail connection running east-west along that drainage way. And it was elected at that time to defer construction until a later date and to have that be on the north side of the stream. And there is a recorded development agreement stipulating that. When Brio of Johnston went in, they did dedicate the necessary trail easement, but we did not have them construct the trail at that time since it would have dead-ended. So with this development, they would have to dedicate the easement, construct their portion of the trail, and we would order the Brio to construct their portion. That would connect Peckham to 86th Street. And I would just note that We are not approving any specific trail design. Now would be a good time if you have strong opinions on this, since we have received public comment regarding this particular matter. If you have strong feelings about it, now's a good time to direct the applicant that way. Staff is recommending that this trail be installed since it does serve a different purpose than the trail along Northwest 70th Avenue. Northwest 70th Avenue, it's a higher volume street, higher traffic volume speeds. It's more of a commuter level trail, whereas this would be more recreational in nature, and attract a different type of trail user than someone that is maybe someone that's not comfortable being right along Northwest 70th Avenue.
This looks real popular.
We did receive a petition of,
I realize it's not as part of our consideration for tonight.
yeah, it wasn't a petition in opposition to the zoning, it was a petition
Right. So
specific about
get it.
retention of
I
the
read it,
trees
yeah.
and the trail.
We're gonna have to, given,
And the reason, and that's one reason I bring it up this evening is in light of receiving that petition, if there's strong direction one way or the other from the council, now would be a good time to direct the applicant and set those. Site will have proper access to all public utilities to service the new development. No FEMA floodplains on the property. Typically don't address architecture at this stage, but the applicant did provide some samples of the type of product they would like to construct. That way you can have those for reference purposes. Actual units may vary.
yeah, I would say, one thing I noticed, project is in a part of our community. Quality of the homes is.
Now, the R2 zoning does not require site plan review, only preliminary plat, so architecture would not come to the council. So if there's a desire for higher architectural standards, that would need to be something that addressed at the time of zoning, probably in the form of a development agreement. So that can be a discussion we can. Trust in both parties working together.
I think that's something we should pursue.
And just to finish.
Let me just clarify. I mean, I don't, I agree with Councilman. I don't know if it's higher architectural standard or just.
I think further conversations necessary.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Staff or with staff and elected officials. I think given that part of the community, and I'm not sure.
When I'm done here, we can invite the applicant up to provide.
And because this is a rezoning, which requires 3.
If a development agreement is desired, that has to be approved prior to closing of the public hearing. So if that's the direction we go, I would suggest we continue the public hearing the next. Exactly.
I'd be comfortable at least hearing from the developers.
If we
Sure, I
we
wanna
find
know
ourselves
that, yeah,
needing to get to that, we can discuss the procedure. I did work with Adam, and he did provide some economic development analysis on this, since there is some modification to commercial here. We've less on reducing or eliminating commercial, and the concern becomes, are we just chipping away at all of our commercial nodes within our community? And he identified that this is really an area that is going to be difficult to develop regardless, just due to its location, and it's competing against other probably more desirable commercial nodes closer to Highway 141 or down towards Interstate 85. Not to say that there is no commercial demand in the area, and there probably is a commercial need. At the scale that we have it shown is probably still on the high side of things. So, because they have done some concepting of how commercial could occur on that south side north of this creek, Adam was saying he felt it was worthy of consideration. I believe we've Adam on the line, so he can always.
And Clayton, but just to that land that's on the north side of the creek, that's not part of the rezoning. We're only looking at that outlot is not part.
It is not part of the rezoning, but it is part of the comprehensive plan amendment. So it would retain its C2 zoning, but currently we show that area as parks and open space. We really hadn't called it out for development potential. So what we've done on the comprehensive plan amendment is kind of carve out where a commercial area could occur north of the creek and retain the parks and open space. And really that odd shape there is based on the stream buffer requirements, 100 feet buffer along the stream, largely retains the along that drainage way.
Well, I'm looking at the aerial and it looks like the trees go mostly all the way to 70th. So you had started out your comments, Clayton, talking about how there's just about enough room to squeeze in a commercial site there. Not sure it's worth it, what we take away from that site.
It certainly has its challenges, and I'm not saying that it wouldn't be without removal of trees and disruption to select areas of that. But there does appear that there is room outside the stream buffer. Whether or not it's good development area, it's subjective. I think it would take a special user to want that site. You know, the downside of the location we have it on the comprehensive plan currently is it's separated from Northwest 70th Avenue by a drainage way. So,
Drainage way is the biggest problem for.
so to get access, they're going to either have to make another like right in, right out access across the creek, or the commercial traffic's going to have to come in through the neighborhood. And that's actually how we have it shown on the current comprehensive plan, is right in, right out for the direct parcel, but then full access would require going through the neighborhood. So there's potential conflicts there as well of traffic patterns. It certainly has a lot of challenges south of 70th. The north side of Northwest 70th Avenue certainly is much more feasible development in a more traditional manner.
Well, and also we know that there is a commercial lot Brio owns just west of that. I think that also that sort of the northwest part of what's proposed is art.
Yeah, and that makes more sense to me considering that used to have a lot more landscape trees there and those are all gone now.
Right.
It's already been graded. All the value in terms of trees are gone. I'd rather protect the one piece that's not been impacted and give up the one that has been severely impacted.
I think it's important to note there will be impact to that treed area for the new stream crossing for the full access.
as proposed.
As proposed, yes.
That's not, again, that street routing.
No, but any development looking at this parcel would be connecting to Northwest 70th Avenue at that location for full access.
What is that, does that connect to another street?
There's no street on the north side currently, but it's envisioned that that would continue north and connect into Valley Parkway. Well, I believe I've covered all the items I was hoping to cover this evening. I'm happy to go into further detail, answer questions at this time. Otherwise, maybe we invite the applicant or their representative up to provide some additional.
I guess I have one more question, Clayton, about these two drainage ways. Are they considered streams? Do they have a name? Are they just? Do they go dry? What is?
They do not have names, to my knowledge. Are streams, they are on our official stream map. Don't know if they went dry during the drought, but on our official stream map, they're not, they are full-time streams, not intermittent.
And the pond that's been created by, with a dam, this is part of the homeowner, you know, the current property, they own that, pond. This is a side question. How often are dams inspected, these kind of private dams?
Low hazard dams are only as requested as DNR staff is available. DNR dam safety program. This would be the type of dam that would probably not get inspected. They did just make a rule change that moderate hazard dams get inspected on a 5-year recurring basis. As part of a development, we've already advised the applicant to contact the DNR dam safety program to make any determinations. If this does qualify for a dam permit, if it needs inspected, we know there's going to need to be modifications to the structure. There's trees that are on the dam embankment currently that should not be there because that does pose a hazard to the dam structure itself. But that's a detail that we need to work through in site design. But it is on our aware of it.
Thank you.
Other questions before we invite the
Hello, my name is Bruce Gates. I'm with Orton Development Company. We're the managing partner of Mozart Properties. There were several things that came up out of the discussion here, and I'll start out with the type of unit that we were. Pictures that you saw were a project in West Des Moines. It's not one we did. The reason for the picture, and I'm the photographer, so they're pretty bad. So they don't look as nice as they are, but these are over $400,000 units. They're not cheap. And the purpose of them was to give you a sense of the scale of what we were talking about putting on here. That 3-car garages, the size of the unit, ranches. We might not have many walkouts, but if they do, the backs of these are almost better. That was the purpose of the picture. It's not, they may not end up looking anything like this, but the size and the scale will be very similar. And the price point that we're looking at, we're talking about $90,000 lots. So these will be up to $450,000 units, not just for both of them, for each unit. That's that point I wanted to make to you. And when we haven't actually designed facades or anything for these yet, we wanted to get further along in the process to find out what the community reaction was. Secondly, the trail issue that we've talked about that goes along the creek. I was actually the manager for Creekside that was developed back there in 2005, 2006 for the development group. And it was my brilliant idea to move that trail to this side of the creek. And the rationale for that was we didn't want trails behind people's houses We wanted to put those where at that time, we were talking about professional offices over there and thought that would be more compatible with that type of use. I also managed the Glenstone development over west of 100th Street. And we had a similar situation there where there were trails in the backyards and the lots were very hard to sell. The actual houses were harder to sell the initial go around because people didn't want a trail along the backs of their houses. And that was why we did what we did with Creekside, is move it across the creek. Then that point being said, the commercial, when we looked at this, we look at commercial kind of in a regional sense in this area, and we just didn't believe, taking away city boundaries between Johnston and Grimes and everything that's going on along 70th Street, we just didn't believe that this was really a really great spot for commercial because of the ditch. And also we talked about, excuse me, combining them with Brio, what they have there. What they have there is about 10 feet higher than this. There really wouldn't be a connection between the two. They'd be completely discrete. That was really why we landed on this. We thought it was a beautiful location for this type of development, getting a little more density, having an upscale type of unit like this that you don't have in Johnston right now. And that's where we arrived, where we did. And because it really pains me sometimes when you have commercial that you can get to say, well, we want to give up commercial and put residential there instead. From a dollars and cents standpoint, if there's a market for the commercial, you'd rather keep that. But we just don't believe that there is a market right there at this location. Across the street's a different story, but here on the south side of 70th, just don't see it. Those are the three things I wanted to hit. Ed is here. He can answer engineering questions, but I wanted to touch on those three things and answer any other questions that you might have as well.
Well, I guess I just wanted to follow up. I appreciate your comments about the part of our community, this a lot of residents of Johnston. Great corporate office location. This pretty much go all the way through, and now we're kind of residences. Certainly nothing wrong with that, but I think it's going to be really, really important. Appreciate your comments indicating go through this a lot of having every unit looking. Fortunately, as you look at these pictures, this isn't reflected. And usually you sort of presume, hey, any developer is going to bring something to the council, absolute best foot forward. Whatever ends up being the final product, hard to get to that because you're trying to sell it. So I appreciate hearing what you said and also your background in the community. Sure that we necessarily need a developer. But just be aware that this project will receive
No, I appreciate that, and I couldn't agree more. That the site's special. We want to treat it right, and we need an up. don't want to sound elitist, but we want an upscale type development here. That's what we're looking for. And I apologize for not having any elevations to show you, but it's our intent that we'd have 3 to 4 distinct elevations through here. Unlike the project that you saw, which again wasn't ours, is having the same look all up and down the street. That isn't going to fly. That does give you a sense of the scale.
Well, have for almost 30 years. So. With what it looks like and what's developed around it, I tend to never have been able to visualize how this left on this side of the road. more sense to me. Even though we want more commercial in our community. Saying that, I Martin, that I don't think we should work too hard at trying to figure out how to make one little piece of it. After the fact that this is going to develop great looking residential. Dollar unit. I think that if we can maintain that all as park area. Convenience store in there, that would serve the entire.
But we'd agree with that, like our analysis showed us that the site was much more conducive to this. And if you think about it, the proof's kind of in the pudding. We've been talking about some type of commercial use for this property for over 15 years. So, and it just hasn't attracted any interest from the market that's serious enough to make anything happen.
Always made more sense the commercial would be on. So let's talk about the trail. Not hearing that you necessarily.
Well, the neighbors we talked to at our neighborhood meeting were adamantly against putting it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
And I was just pointing out that we happen to
Flip that
agree with
comment.
that. Happen to agree with that assessment.
I'll take you at your word.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, if there weren't other trails in the area, and I know that the planners put distinctions on what type of trails are what, but people still use the one on 70th Street. There's still ways to recreate by using a trail either on a bike or walking through this area without having to go behind the houses. Like I said, the reason that I suggested moving it there back in 2005 and 6 when we did this development, because we thought at that time that this maybe had potential to develop as offices. And that would be a lot more compatible with that type of use than it would be. That's why that was done.
I had a question when you were talking about it. There isn't a trail on.
Currently, there's no trail on 86th Street. This trail would connect back into the neighborhood trail system to the west and would be a feeder into this new neighborhood park. Would create some loop systems. Really just serves as a different type of trail. It's about getting people closer into nature so they can enjoy the trees and the stream versus being right up on an arterial roadway. And John, I think, has some input he could provide on the trail as well if you.
I think it's hard to consider, even talk too much about the trail without knowing. I don't see there's any material here.
They do show the trail on here, so.
Yeah, I guess I'd be interested in hearing. Trail was not there. How would the rest?
Yeah. Once again, when I look at different projects like this, I try to isolate and not, excuse me, not automatically look at the individual project, but look at what we're doing across the community. The one thing that we don't have, and once again, not really focusing on this project, but the one thing we're not doing as far as trail systems right now in Johnston is getting trails off roads. Go into almost any other community, you have a lot of recreational trails that lead through more natural type areas. One street to the next, but you can go through more green spaces. Sometimes you go through close to backyards than that in other neighborhoods or in other communities, but they're more green in nature. Think back of over the last 4 or 5 years, all of our trails that we've been putting in, Pioneer Parkway, 86th Street, 70th, everything's associated with a street. So there are people that enjoy that, but there are also people that don't really enjoy walking or biking only up along roadways. So once again, I completely understand the comments and certainly I'm not putting my foot down and saying we absolutely have to have this trail, but it does reflect a different style trail that we kind of gotten away from doing here in Johnston, and that is more green space type trails instead of just roadway trails.
Green Meadows West, we have trails. Backyards large enough.
Without fully seeing the plans, I don't know what kind of easement opportunities there may be for plantings, but that's always something that's in the realm that we can help try to create more of a buffer type effect adjacent to the trail as they go in. One of the things we're doing with 86th Street, once again, we're putting the trail in, but working with the homeowners association to make sure there's more of a buffer type effect to make sure that they don't seem like you're looking into somebody's backyards. That's the only comment. Once again, I haven't put a lot of study or effort into looking at this. I'm just going off of different styles of trails. And this is certainly the opportunity for Johnston to have a different style trail than we're currently been constructing lately.
I think of the trail that runs
Yep.
Compliment, and that is complete.
Correct. And once again, they do have backyards adjacent to them as
Yeah,
well.
exactly. Yeah, you do have, yeah. So, I
And
mean,
one of
oh, sure.
that
Yeah,
neighborhood
right,
park.
right.
And once again, this does connect Peckham to back to 86th Street. That if we wanted to, we could take a short stretch from where this trail comes to 86th and run a trail up to 70th, and then you would have a full loop trail there. You have a lot of different options that are there. And it's just a unique opportunity. We don't have a lot of these unique opportunities as we put together development plans to truly have a green belt type trail.
I think that if the developer, when they were working with their final plans, took note of the concerns that were written, I mean, you have access to this letter. Took note of the concerns about tree removals, not wanting to see the trail. I think the fact that the trail is on the other side of the ravine is probably gonna make them a little happier because it's on the far side of the ravine from their property. And then if you guys were really good, and I know, Ed, you're really good, you keep as much trees along there as possible, that they might come around to thinking that works.
Ed Arp, Civil Engineering Consultants. So, yeah, we kind of dived into the details here, but I guess the devil's in the details. Yeah, the number one thing at the neighborhood meeting was the trail. We didn't really talk about much of anything else. I've had conversations with the neighbors since then, got to know some of them. The problem we're going to run into as a site planner is there's not going to be enough room trail in there without taking trees out. That's going to be the problem. And they're aware of that. And they've wanted to take me out there and show me exactly where the trail would be going and what trees would have to be removed. So that's going to be an issue. Don't talk about that so much during rezoning. Site planning, that's going to be hard. And that's the whole reason that they're all involved in this. Is they want to save. The other thing too is the pond is a non-issue because it's a mess. It's an old farm pond. We're gonna have to totally take it apart and put it back together. That dam's a mess, and so they're gonna have a big input on that because the dam will be totally rebuild the pond. They're gonna all kinds of
Talk about you're talking about the neighbors to the south.
yes, correct. They see this as their backyard, and they said,
Sure.
correct. Now they understand. They were very good. They understand it's best thing they can do, which I always tell them at neighborhood meetings, is get involved and tell us what's your best deal. You know, what do you want this to look like? But it just happens that the trail and the trees kind of collide on this property. You'd have to swing the trail clear up into the middle of the property in order to miss trees. The other thing too is the ditch along the 70th. We did look at that quite a bit, and we're actually designing a crossing there for the new street to come in off 70th. Dual 60-inch pipes. It's a fairly significant drainage way. There'd be the culverts underneath the street. Patrick at Foth would be able to tell you that's a lot of water going through there. So we try not to cross those any more than we have to. So we've got this one particular spot that we've been prescribed. That's where the street will come in. Really like to not put any more crossings in anywhere. Effort, and you're just taking more stream bed out. So, and as Bruce has said, early on, then we moved the commercial, but we just, because of all the natural resources that we need. But I just want to make it clear that it's not a real simple thing to move things around along 70th. We've got a prescribed point. We've got a major construction project to get that access in, that we just as soon not do that anywhere else along there.
So Ed, you're saying that you're prescribed to make an intersection at the point you've shown it. You can't go a little bit farther west to where that other street meets on the north, comes out to 70th.
Correct. We can't go there because the medians are there. We're stuck with that location. It's our only access point from the north. If I start putting other driveways in for a commercial piece, that wouldn't work. And then all of a sudden you'd have a commercial piece on the south side of the ditch with access from the south. That isn't going to work. So, flexing thing, a little bit of a conflict between the land use plan and terrain. That happens all the time, and we don't realize it until we get into doing it.
Terrain wins.
Pardon?
Terrain wins.
Yeah, yeah. The terrain usually does win. So I just wanted to address those things. Those are the physical things on the site that we'll have to deal with when we're getting into the actual construction drawings. But the pond will get redesigned. We'll have to figure out how many trees we can save back there. They want them all saved. The park is one of the flatter spots out there that we can save along the trees. And you know, like we've said, it's kind of more of a pocket park than anything else. So people in the immediate, I'm sorry.
And which piece is that again?
That would be the Outlot Y. That one, yeah. And we feel like that is a good pocket park. The immediate neighborhood know about it. It might not be a regional park by any means. It'll just be something.
How do residents?
But we'd have the ability to come in on the east, off our private drive or off of 86. There'd be enough room there terrain-wise we could get an access at the east end of the park. And we could also have a pedestrian connection out to the west to our new street that's coming west end of the park. We have the ability to do that. But it's going to be one of those ones, like I said, where the immediate neighborhood about it. It won't be one where Meadows is going to go over there and use it.
Walk up the sidewalk on, somebody using it would walk up the sidewalk on 80.
They could either do that, or we have some room there, lot, there'd be some green. Oh, it's not a parking park.
Be no parking. Okay, we're talking about access off of 86. I was just.
Yeah, it's just, I call them playground parks or whatever. They're not an active parking lots and fields.
Well, I guess that, and that's fine. I think that's probably appropriate. Clayton earlier talked about the need for parks in the area. I'm not sure even if you do. Not saying you need to.
Yeah. We
Promising.
haven't established whether it has met the need. It's just that there's a piece of ground that for this particular, that was one of the things, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. One of the things that we said we could incorporate into the project.
Comprehensive plan, when it talks about park needs, we look, it's park that serves residents within a half-mile radius. Is what it talks about. So that would be essentially this immediate neighborhood, not intended to reflect something with parking lot, for example.
In this immediate neighborhood,
It'd probably be the new development, some of the new residential that would go in north of 70th, and maybe some of the Creekside Estate would to the south.
could take a sidewalk. up
They
there.
could come up along 86. I mean, it could serve a large area, but probably not much more than that area.
Immediate, usually we figure is walk. Or
Half
maybe a
mile.
bike, but you're not driving there.
So you brought up parking, and I wanna ask about that. Clayton, right now, I'm assuming these streets are 26 feet wide or wider?
They're public, yes. They're all public streets.
26.
Yes.
So if that's the case, Clayton, we park, new developments like this would have cars parked on the, I can't remember, north,
South and west, no parking north and east.
south side and west side. And looking at this, there'll be driveways for that short street at the north. Big, long street that goes from 86th all the way to the Brio property would not have any parking on the south side because of all those drives, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, there'd certainly be a number of driveways. You know, there will be space between driveways, presumably. How much parking?
Ed, do you consider having any, spaces just provided for parking, or is that?
Build those in.
I would recommend that.
but-
You can't go wrong with having a few spaces around for guest parking.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I'll point out on this, and I'm gonna say, that you'll notice,
Lesson learned.
and, well, and I say that because those were taken last fall or something. I don't know when. They didn't have their irrigation going. They just barely, they threw the sod down and it all burned up. Those units are down right across from Raccoon River Park in West Des Moines, immediately across the driveway from their entrance. They'd knock your socks off if you drove by. The back is spectacular. They're very nice units, covered decks, very nice units. So the photos were terrible, but regardless, because they're 3-car garages and it's a public street, the driveways have to narrow down to a 2-car, driveway, just like single family. There's a lot of curb. They're not
Okay.
typical townhouses. Well, yeah, if you showed the photo again.
And
Don't
also,
show-
when you have-
Don't show the photo
When you have
again.
3-car garages, that also reduces some of the demand.
It's like single family, literally. So you get to the point where when you have these big of units, you have plenty of curb area and 3-car lanes to have guest park in. So Rhonda, I'm not as concerned about it on a big project like this.
Okay, thank you.
It's a little different.
I'm glad that you're watching out for that.
Yep, no, we know about that.
And then the only other comment I would have about this, because I think it's a good idea. I know the units that you're talking about. I think having these kind of dwellings of that size, walkouts, very popular. Work really hard, or maybe sacrifice a few lots and keep your life a lot easier with those neighbors and easier with this council because we like her.
Well, believe it or not, most of the area we're developing doesn't have trees on it.
I believe it.
You know what
But
I'm
there
saying.
is some, and I would ask you, to avoid these high, steep slopes covered in trees. Let's preserve those trees.
Oh, we know what you're talking about.
Said something about a private drive. Private,
Public streets,
you also said earlier something about a private drive. So are all the streets in here would be,
it'd be public.
fire hydrants and all that stuff. One question I have relates to says the last paragraph here says the land I don't know that we are heard today to say. So does it? This is a resolution, so this is a one-shot deal. We aren't coming back. This commercial is dealt with only in this resolution, not in.
Correct.
So my question is, does off on this resolution and maybe tweak? You guys even really want to do this?
Would need to amend the comprehensive plan to have the R2 accurately reflected, so that medium density is accurately reflected. Since we're not rezoning the commercial area, really the only time that part of the change really matters is when we rezone it. It's already zoned commercial. So, I mean, if someone came in today and wanted to develop that area, challenging, but they develop by right. Changing that whole area to parks and open space certainly shows the intent. Doesn't change the zoning of that area. It will still.
So in essence, today it's commercial.
To develop this area commercially, everything else needs to be left. I mean, I'd be happy, approve the resolution at next meeting with second reading. I could bring back a revised one that just.
Or at least has a further conversation about whether. I guess my question is do we need to, if we would move forward with the ordinance, hold off on the resolution?
I don't believe we could hold off on the resolution. I believe that needs to be done, but I'd defer to maybe to our legal counsel.
If I could make a suggestion, in order to rezone the western part that's shown in commercial, that comp plan amendment needs. But if you amended the resolution to add the 1.33 acres, 11.42 acres, that would leave that what would still be zoned commercially as parks and open space. That can then, if anything's ever proposed there, then we can have that.
How would you word that, David?
Well, you just strike the 1.33 acres commercial and add that to, so it'd be 12.75 acres of parks and open. That would basically on that comp plan map, that would get rid of the red and that area would just be green.
I guess my only question is that definitively what we definitely. If it is, then
that would leave it as it is today for that portion of.
I just wanted to say that we're fine with what you're talking about if you want to leave that as. We don't believe it's anything market standpoint is viable for commercial.
So, so I guess if we go to the,
We're still in a public hearing on this, map.
Well, before you move to that, I mean, you also have a very specific 1.86 acres of open water, and Ed has already, Barb has already said, the dam, the water feature, the water is going to have to be revised. It seems strange to me that we have such specific measurements of open water when they're going to redesign this whole pond because it needs to be reconstructed, this farm pond. So my question is, it'd be better if we got rid of all these very specific acreages out to the tenths. If there's some way to do it that way.
You know, keep in mind, these boundaries on the future land use map, they're flexible. They're not hard and fast. They're there to show intent. And what that open water then shows is whether it's 1.7 or 1.9 acres, it's showing that there'd be a open water, a pond in that location. The actual dimensions and shape of it may and likely will vary. We can certainly be less precise, more precise as needed. All you're really doing is changing. All we're trying to say there's the intent that there's a pond in this green space.
We should just say shall be amended to include approximately this, 24 whatever acres, medium density residential, 12 acres of park, and just round it up or something. Say it's approximate. Does that not work?
I mean, we certainly can. I just did a calculate function on our software, and that's how I got the numbers.
What
I don't
would s-
mean to
yeah,
hold
what-
this up for
yeah.
that small thing.
This is a public hearing. Is there anybody?
made us all look. Well,
If not, we will close the public hearing. Action items.
make a motion to approve resolution 21.
Second.
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
First reading of ordinance number.
Second.
Councilmember Burkhart,
Yes.
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Ready.
Yes.
You.
Good luck.
I walked in tonight. I'll just make. I knew. We have a second public hearing tonight. Pause. Consider.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. On July 7th, the city received bids for the Johnston SCADA Phase 2 fiber project. This project will convert our Northwest Beaver Drive booster station
2 of our bioxide injection stations, as well as 3 sanitary sewer lift stations. It will convert that from a cellular connection to a fiber connection, which will increase the reliability of the communications in our system. We did receive 1 bid for the project. The engineer's opinion of probable cost was $435,320. The city did receive a low bid of $373,045.10. So approximately about 15% under the engineer's opinion of probable cost. The certified bid tab does show that worked with Iowa Signal on past projects and has been successful. Staff and the engineer recommend.
Send to me again, this SCADA versus the fiber thing.
Yeah, so currently on our Beaver Drive, we have the booster station. Currently, those stations that communicate alarms, whether high-level alarms or fed pumps, those are transmitted via cellular signal. So running fiber up there will give us some of these areas. We've got tree growth that interrupts that cellular signal. Up on Beaver Drive. Yeah, this will run from Merle Hay up to 90th.
Matt, is there any redundancy in the system besides the fiber? In other words, will we cellular as a backup? What type of evaluation does the city do with regard to security of their? A lot of discussion these days with regard to infrastructure control and security. Do you have a routine procedure to evaluate internally? Penetration testing and things like that?
I don't believe we currently do.
I couldn't hear what you said, Cindy.
I said not since the last time, Councilmember Burke.
There's nothing in this contract that indicates a security component as far as the.
No, this just gives the conduit as well as the fiber and the. Correct. Yeah, it like our current is on a ring. So
I'm just trying to say if it's closed loop or is closed loop, right?
Correct.
You have an idea why we only had 1 bid?
This is the project that we. I don't know. Paul, the last one we had 1 in-state.
Yeah.
Matt, this may seem like a silly question, but fiber is on my brain, and it's on the brains, I think, of a lot of our residents with regard to it. Will this require any kind of tearing up of lawns or things like that?
Yes, this will go in the right of way up along Beaver Drive, so there will be some. And we did have some meeting conversations with MetroNet. They'll be going in this direction too. Partner with them. Once our contractor. Maybe.
Councilmember Cope,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Ready, Burkhart.
Yes.
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 Ready, Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope, Evans.
Yes.
Yes.
Evans, Martin,
Yes.
Ready.
Yes.
Non-consent agenda items.
This is the second reading of this item, and from our last council discussion, there were a couple of changes made. One was adding calendar days to the language, just so it was clear, to clarify that how we're counting the days, and then one change that remains is we're going from 30 calendar days. We'll have to file a written appeal for the Board of Adjustment. The other change that we made from the previous one is that staff had proposed 10 calendar days for the receipt of a request. I written comment from neighbors, and we changed that to 15, or went back to 15 rather than reducing. Those changes were made, and in draft. Not the. So for section 1, the only change we're making is calendar, is that correct? Correct. Section 2, we're changing it days to 10. I just want to make sure that those are. We can do that the next time for the red line. I included the language in the staff. Do a red line in the. Yes.
Evans, Martin, Ready,
Yes.
Burkhart.
Yes.
Item 7B, consider first reading of ordinance number.
Evening, staff had received a request from the Johnston School District to make the intersection of Northwest 60th Avenue and Northwest 54th Court into a four-way stop intersection. Currently, Northwest 60th Avenue is stop conditions both eastbound and westbound, but Northwest 54th Avenue is through traffic, no stop condition. With the recent completion of our road improvements, including sidewalk in the neighborhood, we are anticipating higher probability of children and walking to school, as well as additional other pedestrians as well, adults. Four-way stop intersection with provide a safer crossing there at that intersection. Staff is recommending approval of this.
Currently, there's no stop signs on the east.
There is stop signs going east-west, but not north-south.
Approval, Cope.
Second.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
We have received, we had a hailstorm, what was it, about 2 weeks or so ago? And staff has been advised there was significant damage throughout not just Johnston, but the larger metro area. So we have had a number of operators approach city staff about setting up facilities to repair damaged automobiles from hail. This is one such facility where they are looking to set up a temporary facility for hail damage repair. The Code of Ordinances does allow for this, subject to city council approval of a temporary use permit. It's listed as one of those other uses that requires to go to city council. So that's why it's in front of you this evening. The applicant has secured a lease of the property to utilize it for their trailer facility, as well as use of the building itself as needed. They have provided a site plan of how they intend to set up the site, and they do have, they did provide pictures of the trailer facility itself, so you can see what they're looking to put there. The property is zone C3, highway-oriented commercial, so the use of the property for these minor repairs is a permitted land use. Really just the operation out of the trailer that they are seeking approval of. I do believe we have representatives of the applicant in the audience this evening, should you have questions. Have them meet.
I have a couple of questions. So this facility, that they have been around for a while, is that right? Done this kind of business.
I would defer to the applicant on their.
Sorry, yes, forgot.
How long does this permit?
The permit is valid for 6 months out of a 12-month period. It automatically expires without further action of the council if the lease revoked, terminates or expires, or is found to be invalid. The applicant has currently secured a lease for 3 months. So while it's written in there that 6 months, they would have to get an extension on that lease to.
Would they have to come back to us though for a permit after that or upon?
I did not anticipate that it would need to, provided they are continuing to operate in the same manner and under this. If there were modifications.
Probably said this before, but
Yeah, the old Dragon Car Wash and where the Quick Lube building. Sonic, I'm right.
Harrison, would you stay?
The question I had was, how long have you guys doing this?
20 years. 20 years. It's Used to do mainly commercial dealerships and stuff.
Always operated out of a trailer, and you move around cities as needed.
All over, yes, sir. The nature of what we do requires us to travel, and whether we set up here or in a body shop, we're here whenever help. Paintless dent repair. So when the hailstorm hits, like this storm, it doesn't require paint at all. It's come in and can fix the car versus a paint repair 3 weeks. Push it up, yes. ma'am.
Okay.
Once the snow, well, if we are, we'll be in the building at that point. Once, I live in Sioux City and I know, but yes, ma'am. And that would be awesome.
Not so fast.
I don't
No, it would-
Your application indicates that the need for an electric power or generator, does that come from the trailer itself, or are you getting that as part of your lease agreement?
Okay, so the building does have power. It's operational. We do have a 200 amp generator on the trailer. And but we also we cover our extension cords. It looks a lot. I would anticipate probably using some. Obviously, I'd rather work in that building.
Tell me a little bit about the generator itself. Is it gas powered?
Diesel.
Diesel?
Yes.
All right. And any kind of sound mitigation for that? Will it be a distraction or disruption to any of the neighbors around there?
I don't know exact decibel levels, but I operate in locations like this all the time, and it's a generator. I mean, but there's noise. But if the generator is an issue, I could very easily run power off.
Does the application itself require, or does the permit require hours of operation or limited hours of operation?
No, it does not stipulate that. Noise concerns, we do have a noise ordinance which would limit that exposure off the property, and I believe that's operation can occur later, so you have that nuisance.
What are the planned hours of operation?
We're seasonal, so we work if there's daylight, I'm working. My hours, I'm open from 8.
Like a franchise business that you?
No, sir. I have 2 partners. We have. Go in, we write their estimates, all that. Not do that anymore. Thank y'all.
There's no other questions. Do we have a motion to approve resolution number 21?
Second.
Ready,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Evans, Martin.
Next item, 7D, looks a lot.
Very similar to the last one. Primary difference is they are looking to operate out of a tent facility rather than a trailer facility. This is for Acura Johnston. They've indicated to staff and their intention is to repair vehicles on the 3 lots: Acura, Lithia, Audi, and VW. So 600 cars approximate. They would repair customer cars as needed, as desired, but the primary need is for market. Staff is recommending approval.
Primary focus is repairing.
Correct. Yeah, they did indicate they would repair customers as needed, but their primary focus is their inventory. Again, this would be a 6-month permit. The one difference from the past one is since they are the property owner, I wrote in there, if the property ownership changes, they automatically expires.
And on the map, is that location the tent is?
That is the Acura building, very furthest south parking lot before Beaver Creek on Merle Hay Road on the west side. They had in fact already set up that tent and aware of that. Actually did have it too close. Proper setbacks.
Just so I understand your clarification here, they've already sought the permit for a temporary structure. This is explicitly for the type.
They erected the tent without a permit. What they are seeking tonight is approval to allow it to continue to be up, for them to operate. Correct.
Yes, there's a former used car dealership across the street that has a dent trailer. Does that belong to this entity?
That is a separate entity. They are operating out of the building itself. So that is why they are not in front of you with a permit. They have indicated to staff they are only doing estimates out of that. No repairs. But they do have work vehicles on site, which does include work. If they were to come back and want to do repairs out of a temporary facility, that would come in front of you.
I apologize for not asking this earlier today. When it comes to temporary structures like this or like a trailer, do they undergo any kind of specific fire inspection or any other kind of safety expectations?
I would probably defer to the fire chief on that one.
Is handling of diesel fuel considered to be a hazard?
Our building staff usually goes out too and just makes sure that
All right, we have a motion to
Approval, Cope.
Can you vote, please?
Yes.
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 Martin, Ready,
Yes.
Item 7E, consider
I move.
Second.
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin, Ready, Burkhart,
Yes.
Yes. Goes back to item number 4B that was on the work session.
Close to wrapping up construction here in the
Are
town.
you feeling better?
I got hand, foot, mouth from the kids, so I just don't want to touch anything.
You did, I'm sorry, what? That's what you're suffering from. Oh, I got the shot, but geez.
And Adam, I'm
That's why I'm
sorry.
coming, because I couldn't hear most of it over the mic, so I seen this best. So as we're wrapping up construction on the town center, I wanted to give some updates on both the grand opening and some of the other activities, not items that are going on there. So we have been into a couple planning meetings for the August 28th event. We have $1,500 in sponsorships. Primarily been asking contractors and those involved in the construction of the town center for those donations, and avoided asking Johnston businesses other events in the future. Yep. The tentative unfunded portion of the event could be between $12,000. Some of that depends on how alcohol sales occur, as well as whether or not we end up putting an additional stage on top of our existing stage. Up there, and I think we should have an answer to that question here in the next couple of days. Any unfunded portion of the event. The plan for attendance, since we haven't operated this site yet, how many folks would be showing up for the 3 concerts? We are going to push this out very shortly here on Facebook and other means. The tickets are free, charge, but we're going to use that back, how many folks we can expect to see that evening, to make sure we have enough porta-johns, and to make sure that we're not parking issues or crowding going on in the town center. And getting into a position where we have more people than we can. For the beer garden, beer garden will be fenced, and then have a west side, so it'll be just south of the stage. Folks should be up that beer garden, and then there'll also be a VIP area. Sponsors of the event are also on the north side of the yard. With both of those east-west private drives barricaded for pedestrian traffic only. Still trying to figure out exactly what barricades we're going to use, but still working through the timeline of events, but this is generally what we're looking at is a 2 or 3 p.m. start time, where the general start activities would open up concession stands, all tours with staff. List we'll talk about here shortly. We'll be doing some activities. Art-related activities. Dance Vision's lined up to perform between 4:30 and 5. Library, and we'll start 5:30. They'll start sound check. Alcohol sales late in the afternoon, perhaps around 6. Open at 7 and got noted in here possible fireworks display. Do have an option here of Blazing Glory, a local couple. Fireworks for a short display. for about a 3-minute show with a heavy finale. It would be another $1,000. So if council would like to have that as kind of the end cap to the celebrations. Pause there if you want to talk about that first, or I can kind of continue the rest of the grand opening stuff. We can circle back to that. I guess the only other item I have is parking. Jim met with the school district this afternoon. They are willing to let us do some overflow parking at the junior high. Here, just providing directions to folks, and then a little bit of cleanup. Takeaways from that conversation. All right, so before we move over to the town center construction, is there any thoughts or feedback as far as having fireworks at the end of the event?
Like you've got two options in your staff report. Reflective of what we're trying.
I guess.
I think that did create a lot of smoke. Smoke that it creates if it goes on for 10 minutes. My first reaction was fireworks, that would be wonderful. We've got I heard some little kids say, look at those people in that smoke. Zombies walking. I mean, it looked kind of interesting, but you know, tolerate at 10 o'clock. I support the 3 minutes.
Tire makers.
I can go either way.
I'm in agreement. I never turned on fireworks.
How about a 5-minute one? Lengthen a little bit. Maybe they ask for a few more $100, but a little bit longer.
5 minutes. I'm good.
We'll strike a deal with them on that.
What is the paper line?
I haven't heard a lot about it yet, but Lisa Cooper with the Arts Council is going to have some artists, I believe, help make some designs. I think it's on like small milk jugs, and then they put an artificial candle inside of that. And so we've got it timed out right when you're getting dark. Any of the kids that would just kind of do a walk around that interior. As far as town center construction, then we did the punch list walkthrough last Friday. All the major components are now in place. There are a few minor cleanup issues that need to continue over the next few weeks, particularly a couple of electrical things, but there's really no major issues that we have looking to get the financial report back from Hanson within the next few weeks. Current estimate is we're about at $32 million off a $33 million budget. A little bit under on that, but again, that financial picture should be more. Matt Brown, former council member, to do a financial review for us to ensure that everything's in order and it's been done as agreed to. A lot of experience, I think, in working through those fields as an architect. And the intention is to have him conduct that review once he receives all the information, probably have. That $32 million also does include a couple components that are not yet constructed and are going to be done as an additional phase. So as Hanson, two commercial buildings on the intersection. There's sidewalks, some trees, other plantings that are on public property but need to wait to go. There's also a trellis. Pull that up. There's a trellis that you've probably seen. Buildings, and that'd be on the pedestrian walkway on the public property. As you site, if you're entering it. That design on that trellis is not yet complete. Conceptual rendering of that. Logo in Johnston Town. Hope to finish up the design on that in the near future. Splash pad is also done. The intention is to open that up to the public July 23rd. Huddle will be out there putting on some of those scales for the next week or two. Barricaded off. The kids will be out there.
July 23rd is this Friday.
Yes, this coming Friday.
When?
Well, we're just reaching that decision here after the punch list on last Friday. So basically dirt to clean up and then
For the soft open, right?
Planning a big fanfare, but we will push that out on social media.
On the artwork, everybody probably saw ripples go in late last week. As I mentioned, Aldo will be working on putting on those scales over the next couple of weeks. Out there, the installation is very smooth. Art Council has met a couple of times in the last week as well. Jimmy Navarro, who won the RF, up with some initial designs, and then this afternoon, back down with them after giving them back and is providing. Oh, Cindy, if you could pull up box there, those are the initial design. Final ones are updated mural north. So on the north side one, you have a very much of a stained glass look to it. We asked depth to the piece. But that's kind of what you'll see from there. There'll be some gold flake I think he added in there as well, so it should really reflect a little bit. Corner piece there facing to the west is a, calls it, representing. Overlooking out from Johnston is the idea. The Arts Council was very supportive of it. I think he did a job. I provided in the staff report there some of his on those pieces. Back to the full council to make you aware of it. If you had any questions. art bus shelter as well, which would be sitting right in front of the Walgreens at the intersection of 62nd and Merle Hay. The Arts Council received 3 submissions for that artwork. As a reminder, this is being funded partially through Bravo grant and then some funds from the Polk County Economic Development Program that went out to assist with businesses. Leftover dollars from that for the design portion of that. So the 3 pieces, this is the one that the Arts Council wanted to move forward with. I think they have some proposed revisions that they'd like to work with the artist on as far as specific items that would be included in that. Palmer's done a number of paintings. Des Moines, and I think they liked that it was fairly unique look relative to some of the other artwork out here and should be several of the both of the existing bottom there. I think I see first. He's done the other 2 art. Right here. So we did ask that she would add some color into it as well. So most of it, I think, is intended to be black and white. Sunshine, for example, would be yellow. Replicated, maybe. That was exactly the feedback. And if the
We don't
more you
want
dive
Graham
into it, I
building.
think you do see that some of those do relate back to Johnston, but I think there's a couple.
Or represent.
So we don't have a final version of that yet, but this is the style of the artwork that. Questions on art. Final component then is the private commercial buildings development agreement. Staff and legal have put together a draft development agreement for the first 2 buildings. They're currently sitting with Hanson for any feedback in the site plan for the building off of 62nd, and that should be going here on July 26th. That expecting to see the second building off of Merle Hay to be submitted within the next. Quite on the same parallel track what they were hoping that. Not released any tenant names yet, so I don't have anything to announce on that. But staff has also been working with Cobblestone Hotel, who's with the state town center and we're at the early stages. Cobblestone? No, they did provide an example of one that they thought was probably similar. We've given them our design guidelines, which
They'll do great. I just kind of want to earlier.
And that is all I have for you, unless you have any additional questions.
and I'm not sure the city.
As I understood, the opportunity.
Fair point.
A heck of a bigger. Marching band, when I was, when we were.
Did
in
reach
the
out to the
marching
marching
We
band.
would march around the, we'd just march there, you just have come in from one side.
I believe VenueWorks did reach out to the marching band. Available, but that one was reached out.
I think one of the issues was the bands and the chorus is really, I mean, it's that was part of the conversation, I think.
Probably got a football game tonight.
Out to the jazz band or?
No, I'm just noting the jazz band and show choir. If anybody has any connections to either one of those groups. I certainly don't know them.
Partnership falls through on the.
Apparently, they've already been contacted. Okay, anything else for Adam? Thanks, Adam. Other comments, Jim?
Got three quick things. One, kind of want to remind folks that the League of Cities I found it, I've been to a couple of them, and how other cities deal with it. I circulated an email to staff. Popped up in Green Meadows West. Have had their ash trees removed, they now are wanting to replant another street. But our rules and regulations require a distance between sidewalk and also any utilities. And so it's almost impossible, and this is a decided to have the tree removed. Now when they want to plant a new tree. So I think this whole issue as we deal with I talked to both Matt and John about it. Part of the issue is that our problems there. So I think haven't treated continued up. Not be allowed to do it. So send an email to staff involved, the mayor. If nothing else, I do believe we need to modify. Have an ability to say, hey, staff does a very good job. Cut this tree down, you may not be able to plant another tree. Staff believes that they're hearing from residents that they didn't hear that. It's challenging, residents. So, certainly have a lot of people in. Third item, just want to pass along, this is John, but also a little bit of a personal issue. I want to let everybody know who isn't aware, but the Johnston Little League softball team, the 12U Little League Huxley, and because they're the 12U age level, I'll get to move on to regionals. Eventually, if they would finish in first or second place in the regional, play in the Little League Softball World Series in August. So the games start next Sunday at like 7 o'clock. They're all the games are streamed. Girls get to do a little intro and all that type of stuff. All of the girls are really excited. So we'll send off, I think, Friday, 6 o'clock down at Lou Clarkson Park, and then everybody's driving Saturday. So anyway, just kind of wanted to pass that along. If you're first game will be Sunday night, I think it's 7 o'clock. I had nothing to do with it. I think the first game is against, so it's 9 states, each state champion from 9 different states will be playing. Play the winner of Illinois versus double elimination, so you play until you lose twice.
I want to piggyback on Councilman Cope real quickly with regard to trees. I look forward to that discussion because I think it not only impacts the Emerald Ash Borer type conversation, but just I'm hearing from neighbors and residents who want to put in new trees that they've lost because of the derecho. And in light of our drought situations that we now have alleviated some of those restrictions, what I think a lot of people realize too is their lawns looked a lot better under their trees than they did in direct sunlight. And when they no longer had those trees because of insects or other issues, they began to realize that their lawns were affected by it too, visually, aesthetically, as well as environmentally. So whatever we can do as a city to help promote that and encourage that, I think would be. I also want to just take a point of personal privilege to be able to thank Chief McDaniel and the Johnston Police Force. You have done a great job once again in addressing neighborhood concerns with regard to some traffic and disruption, and as you put it, maybe some less than stellar choices, poor choices with regard to some adolescent behavior at the high school parking lot. I look forward to some neighbors calm and sensible
too.
Most importantly.
Most important, yeah. So maybe we should be talking about that at the park board. I'm wondering, Dave.
I'll just mention three things real quickly. Allow walkers, runners, and bikers through, but at the same time getting the job. And being very careful to make sure that people are not injured. Nice swearing-in ceremony. While Water Trails had a confluence. Johnston got a great shout out for being the first city. Also, for the go to the order, I think we still have a that item on our agenda then. Iowa Code Section 21.5.
Oh, second.
Councilmember Cope,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin, Ready,
Yes.
Burkhart.
Yes.